And so we pray that you'll be with the doctor, give him energy, give him strength. We know that he has traveled a long way to give these presentations, and so we pray that you'll bless him as we're about to be blessed. Thank you for all that you do. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Yes, I was so delighted. Maybe a couple weeks ago, Harold said, we're going on a teaching tour, a road trip. And so he said, would your church like me to share something? And he's also from here going down to my mom's church, and they'll have him for church and afternoon meeting. And then he's going to my sister's church for a wellness seminar. He was just at Shasta last weekend for 4 sessions. So we're just in the right line, to get him to come by and see us. Harold did exercise physiology, and I was really impressed about his interest in health. I also worked at Wildwood and in Utah in health centers. And so I've been really interested in his career. But we started out when we were kids, He's 2 years older than I. And his family, my father and his mom, were good friends growing up themselves. So they would get together. Yeah. Brother and sister, but they were just really close, as friends. And we lived close enough, so Christmas time or Thanksgiving, we rode the Jeep together, all us kids piled on. And so horses, backpack trip, all kinds of things. So it's just fun to have Harold and his wife Sylvia. She's been just going 100 miles an hour, so she stayed home to rest tonight. So we're just glad you're here, Harold, and thank you for coming.
I'll use my mic here. Is that on now? Lana's the safe one to introduce me. I'm glad that they picked that cousin, and some of the other cousins, I'm not sure what they would say. But Lana's been really good to me because Lana's gotten me a lot of good jobs. She didn't tell you that part. She went up to Feather River Hospital in Paradise, the one that burned down. She went up there. I lived there 18 years because of Lana's recommendation that they should hire me there at the hospital. So I ran an exercise program from their heart program and for their city there for 8 years. Then I went into business myself and did treadmill testing for physicians' offices. I had 35 physicians. I was getting too busy. I could hardly keep up. And then managed care hit California. They would put all these physicians in groups, and the group would dictate where they get their testing. Well, I was going right into their offices, any of their offices. Well, they said, we can't test with you. We got to do it with this group. And they say we got to do them over at this hospital, and this is the hospital. So my wife was praying in the middle of the night, silently to herself, and said, what will you have us do, Lord? We're down to 6 physicians now from 35. Well, things were getting a little, we were eating beans and rice by that time. And so anyway, was that me? So she was praying in the middle of the night, and she heard an audible voice say, look in the recorder. Now that's the paper that goes around to California that lets them know what's going on in our union. And interesting enough, she said, okay, she said to herself, yeah, I've got to do that. Well, she's praying a little bit more, and a second time, the audible voice got more distinct and said, look in the recorder. So she answered it. And then she said, who am I talking to? And so she went and got the paper, looked at it. In the very job that I was in 18 years at Southern Adventist University, but 8 years before I got the job. So the Lord was saying, be patient, hold on, I'm going to give you a job. But it was so nice. We went to the Lifestyle Center for 8 years. in Oklahoma. And I learned a lot in Oklahoma about lifestyle, and that's why the Lord wanted to take me through there. Then when I got this invitation to go to Southern, because I was doing students, that's why I'm very interested in students, and they said, I want you to come and teach the students what you're teaching there at the Lifestyle Center. The professor that hired me, the dean of the school, wrote me a handwritten note and said, I've got a job for you. How do you want me to write your job description? Well, that's pretty direct, isn't it? So I knew the Lord was calling us to Southern and been there for 18 years. And now I retired at the end of May. My wife's retiring at the end of August. And we said, well, we want to do some things, and particularly this idea of teaching people about the importance of the body. You can see on there, if you look real carefully, it's a little bit far away, but you see on the right there the cut line. You know what a cut line is? A cut line is what they advertise the school for. They say Southern, power for the, what does it say on the right? Mind and soul. So I went up to the department where they made that up, and that whole promotion, and said, where's the body? They said, go home, Harold. We know all you're interested in is exercise. And I said, no. I'm interested in the health of the body. When you take care of the body, when you power, we say, when you power the mind and soul, you have to move the body. I said, I don't mind that you missed it. Now I can point it out and let people know that you can't forget the body. That's the first thing I want you to learn tonight. The second thing I want you to learn tonight, it's not harder, it's smart. How do they spell smarter up there? You got the heart in it. You got to get the heart in the game. And most exercise is done without the heart in the game. You have what we call fast twitch fibers and slow twitch fibers in your body. And they can both do the work. If you were going to hit the ball and run to first base as fast as you could, it's mostly only fast twitch fibers, and it's glycogen. You know what glycogen is? It's the sugar in the muscle, and there's only a little bit in storage. When you run out, you run out. Well, guess what I discovered in our lab? People are living on the glycogen. And so by the end of the day, the only way they get their energy is what? Eat it. Uh-oh. You know where that goes. When we get low on energy, we eat because we want to be pepped up. In fact, you know the billion-dollar business at the checkout stand has a little 5-hour energy thing there? That's a billion-dollar business. Did you know that? Because people are out of energy. They're living from their glycogen. You should be living from your fat. You don't have to be very fat to live from your fat either. You can be skinny and live from your fat, which is really interesting. So you got to teach your body to live from the fat. You don't just automatically live from that. And it's not harder you have to do it, it's smarter. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to judge that and how you actually do that. So let's go through this pretty quick here because I got enough slides to keep us busy. But even Paul had the problem with, how do we know what to do? I try to do this and I do that, and I can't figure out what to do. He says, I don't understand what I do. I do what I want. What I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. Does that sound like what we do? How do we have the ability to do what God wants us to do? That's the important part. And if you take care of the body, it will start dictating to the mind, and the mind will be in control, not the body. The body becomes in control if we're not careful. And I've got a whole lecture on what happens to all the hormones and the balances of those hormones and how it forces you to eat. That's where the problem is a lot of times. We eat too much food. In fact, who's really in charge? Even the rascals couldn't figure out, who was in charge, because they each seemed to be in charge, and that was their problem half the time. A lot of them were Adventists. You knew that, right? Yeah, they were. If you knew that. In fact, I think some of them are today even. Yeah, that were on that show. You can look that up and you can probably see maybe where some of those are, but a lot of them, they were from Adventist families. So that's really an interesting insight into them, and I put that on there. But look at this, from Desire Ages, all who consecrate soul, body, and spirit. That's the whole person. If we just go mind and soul, where's the body? Body, mind, and soul. Even Southern even missed it. Okay? They will be constantly receiving a new endowment of physical and mental power. I tell my students, you want more mental power? You want to be able to do good in this class? There's where it's at. You got to do that. You got to put your faith and trust in God can help you. The inexhaustible supplies of heaven are at their command. Christ gives them a breath of his own spirit. I'm going to talk about that breath. When he started mankind, he drew him in the ground and he breathed the breath of life into mankind. Then he told mankind to procreate and pass along his genes. He wrote his genes on every cell of Adam and Eve's body. Can you believe that? Wow. That's amazing when you stop and think about it. In fact, be careful. I might start crying. That thought right there just blows me away. We are made in God's image. Every cell of our body is written with his genealogy on our. Are we taking care of that genealogy? Are we actually improving that genealogy? In fact, Christ gives them the breath of his own spirit and the life of his own life. The Holy Spirit puts forth his highest energies to work in their heart and mind. The grace of God enlarges and multiplies their faculties. I didn't start to really learn how to think until I learned it out of the Bible. That's all frontal lobe thinking. Because you're studying with God on having to think through what the Bible's telling you, and all of a sudden, guess what? That thinking is led by the Holy Spirit. Amen. Can you get any more powerful thinking than that? Nowhere. I don't care what you study, what subject you study. In fact, my mom told me. My mom taught me this. She was a nurse. And she said, here I'm getting my graduate degree. I'm getting my doctorate degree in physiology. And she says to me, you know, Harold, all the principles of physiology are in the Bible. I said, oh, mother, show me one. Come on. Well, I'm going to teach you a few tonight. Amen. They're in the Bible. And the more I study, the more I learn, the more I realize, wow, if we learn the principles that God tried to teach us, we'll know how the physiology should work, and it'll become, aha, I understand now. You'll see as we go through. Okay, intelligent design. God is the intelligent designer who prepared this living habitation, our body, for the mind and soul. So look at that. Power for the mind and soul. The body is prepared for the living habitation of that. I tried to show that to the school. They told me to go home. Okay? The mind controls the whole man. All physical organs are the servants of the mind. Wow. So your mind is powerful if we treat it correctly by what we do to the body. I became smarter and smarter and smarter as I exercised with the right purpose. I didn't get smarter when I exercised with the wrong purpose. And I've got study after study to show you it enlarges your faculties. Exercise at the right sweet spot, we call it. And I'll show you that, what that is. So the key players of metabolism, metabolic health is really important. My dad gave me heart disease and I blamed him. That's the metabolism, metabolic health. And he gave me inflammatory disease. He had his first heart attack at 45. He was a dentist. And I thought, uh-oh, I'm in line. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Well, I made it to 61 and then I had a heart attack. And then I had 3 stents put in. And then I had 5 vessel bypass surgery. I can show you a zipper here, right there, where they did all that work. Okay? But I learned from that lesson. God likes to teach me in real life learning a lot of times. I learned that, hey, it wasn't my dad's problem. We get inherited problems from our parents and everything, but we turn on the genes ourselves. And I turn the genes on by eating good food. Eating good food? Well, eating too much good food. I gained weight, and that turned on the genes that caused my heart disease. I could have saved myself a heart attack if I would have stayed the right weight. So you learn, and the right activity sweet spot level, the eating habit, what we call energy balance. I'm going to teach you about that tonight. Your exposure to light, your temperate rate. Boy, what does this sound like when you go down there? This is our health message. It's all right there. You could put New Start right up there and it would match all those things. Okay? The temperature regulation, the fluid balance, the hydration. We found out in our lab, if you're dehydrated, you can live on 400 calories. Well, nobody lives on 400 calories. What is that? When you're dehydrated, your body does not metabolize the food correctly. It just stores it, gets you ready for later maybe. Yeah. Okay, so you want to make sure and be hydrated daily. How much water should you drink? Half your weight in ounces. And every 15 minutes of exercise, 8 ounces. 8 ounces every 15 minutes of exercise. That's the general rule. That's a lot of water. My urologist told me that's too much water. I said, no, that's what we need. And he says, you're right, the world is dehydrated. He knew it. And that's why he has a good profession, because everybody's dehydrated. It causes other problems as well. Okay. See this picture here by Doolittle? I love her pictures. Can you see the hidden faces in that picture? All the Indians in there? They're all over. You see that? I see one down here, one over there, one up there, another one up there, one over in the right, one way back in the back. Look at all the ones in the back in the darkness there. Wow. She's a great artist to be able to paint that way. And guess what? You have not been given the whole picture. You've been scammed. You ever been scammed? Okay. Let me go back to that picture. You have been scammed. The science world, the exercise physiologist, my profession, has been not giving you the full scoop. And I'm going to give you each point of the full scoop that you need for your metabolism to work properly. That's what we want to look at. So I'm going to give you the whole picture. I told your pastor when he called this afternoon, I said, he wanted to know if we should record it. I said, sure, record it. I'm going to give lots of secrets that people don't know about. So we want to tell those secrets to people. We want to tell them, well, what's the good news? The good news of the gospel in the body. Your body is a living example of the gospel, of salvation. Look at that. Look at that. Your life is in your blood. Where is our life? In Christ's blood, the salvation of us. But your body in itself, the blood is really pretty important. If you smoke, that oxygen is bound and it goes around and the leg says, give me some oxygen. And it goes on by and says, sorry, see you later. And so their skin is starving of oxygen. You can see that. But a lot of other organs are starving of oxygen too. In fact, the risk of dying of a heart attack from smoking is twice the risk. What do you think the risk of not exercising is of having a heart attack? What's your guess? How many? Yeah, it would feel like that, huh? It's twice the risk as well. Okay, I set you up for that one, kind of said, it's got to be more, But it's twice the risk as well. So I tell my students, if you don't exercise, you might as well smoke. Well, I almost got in trouble, so I have to be careful about saying that anymore. Boy, I have trouble with clicking this thing when I'm not supposed to. Okay, so your life is in your blood. Keep your heart with diligence, for out of it are all the issues of life. That's why we're talking about the heart of the matter. You got to have your heart in the game. It's so easy to exercise without your heart being in the game. Even walking, you could be out of the range where your body's actually learning the pathways of using oxygen in the mitochondria of the cell, which is the heart of the cell. It even works in that. That's the same salvation of that cell, is it needs to use oxygen down in the mitochondria. When you use oxygen down in there and use it at the right level, when I teach you how to assess yourself, I'm going to give you this page. You'll assess yourself, you'll find out where you should be exercising, and then you'll adjust for what we call the sweet spot, because we have enough data in the lab. We can tell you exactly by taking 0.24 times this performance heart rate and add 88 beats, and is right where that sweet spot is, what we call 0.8 oxygen carbon dioxide ratio. Now, right now you wouldn't know what that ratio is, so we use the heart rate to determine what that ratio is. I'll tell you a secret, I'm developing an analyzer, just like the breathalyzer for alcohol, where you just give a puff on it, and it tells you what your carbon dioxide oxygen ratio is, so you'll know exactly where you should be exercising. And I have a guy, in fact, he almost had it done for me to bring it to California, almost had it on this trip. Okay, so let's move along. So your fat is the charcoal, think of that. You can't just light a match to that charcoal and get it going. You have to have a spark. You have to have the igniter fluid. That's the glycogen or the carbohydrates. So you still have to eat carbohydrates. And the problem that people have given carbohydrates a bad rap is because they eat too much. That's the problem. It's not so much that the carbohydrate's a bad food, especially if it's a complex carbohydrate. It's a good food. And we need 60% of our diet, carbohydrates, 20% fat, and 20% proteins. And you can analyze your own diet just by putting it into myfitnesspal.com, and it will tell you what you're eating. Excuse me, what you're eating. Okay? Then we need spark. When we run out of spark, we have to slow way down because fat doesn't burn very well without spark. It's like fire doesn't burn very well without oxygen. Same sort of thing. Carbohydrates need to light the match. Here's the clinker. I want you to learn this. I want you to learn this very good. We sometimes get the idea that all we got to do is exercise and that'll take care of all our calories. Does exercise lose weight? Who said yes? Who said no? You got to vote. You say no? You're right. It's no. How many calories do you burn in the course of an hour of exercise? Maybe 200 or 300 calories. People eat a piece of cake and they go, I'm going to go work it off. That doesn't work. Let me tell you. It doesn't work. Everybody knows that doesn't work, okay? So, guess what? 75% of all your energy used and calories burned happen when? At rest, not during exercise. Only 25% is attributed to exercise, but 75% of the exercise. So you better have an efficient, what we call metabolic efficiency at rest. And that's what our research has been about, is me. One of my students named that. Isn't that an interesting name? This is the me generation. They said, hey, Dr. Meyer, you're doing the me research. I said, what do you mean? Metabolic efficiency. And I put it to the power of 2 because the 2 operatives you need is, number 1, slightly negative energy balance, okay? And you need exercise at the sweet spot to teach the system to use fat so that it uses up the fat even when you're not exercising. That's what you want, is to lose weight when you're just sitting here listening to me. Amen. Amen. Come on. We get to this whole exercise thing has been pushed on us pretty hard. And people get discouraged because it doesn't work, okay? You need those combination of those 2 things, energy balance. There it is, 70% or so, 75% is the red area, that's at rest. Your actually eating habit, when you eat 3 times a day, increases your metabolism by 10%. So that's why people eat 6 meals a day. They're trying to increase their metabolism. Well, let's don't increase it with food. Let's increase it with exercise. At the Lifestyle Center of America, we exercised 4 times a day. They would walk in, and we'd sit down in the gym, and I would give them a description of what we were going to do at the Lifestyle Center. I'd say, you're going to exercise 4 times a day. Here was the response I got. They first would say, my hearing aid maybe isn't working very well. And then they would say, they'd look around, they'd look at each other, they say, is he talking to me? I haven't exercised 4 times in the last 40 years, and he's telling me I have to exercise 4 times a day. He's going to kill me. I said, no. You're going to exercise, rest, exercise, rest, exercise, rest, put it all together. We go 30 seconds, and then we rest 30 seconds. So if you were looking at it and walking, you do this. Exercise for 30 seconds at your pace. Then for resting, you're just doing this. You're just relaxing, resting, paying back debt as you go. Well, after a couple of sessions, after 1 week, they're going, is that it? Give me more. In fact, I watched an 80-year-old man up on the track running. And I said, wait. You don't need to run. It's just walking. And he said, I haven't run in 40 years. This feels great. I'm going to run. Well, I go, okay. I tried not to look. You have 80-year-old bones and 80-year-old muscles and 80-year-old joints and 80-year-old heart. And, you got to be careful. You got to remember our age. Okay? Okay. We tend to, what's good, more is better, right? In fact, that's the reason exercise has been pushed on you in the way it has, is the only thing you get out of life is the harder you work, the more pay you get, more you go on the ladder, the more everything you get by working harder, but not with physiology. Isn't that good news? Man, that wakes people up. They go, I'm on your team. And that's what we want, is people on the team of learning how to exercise properly. For it to be effective, we call it metabolic efficiency. That's what we're after. Okay? Here's what we do at the lab. We lay them down on a bed. We have a canopy. We actually can do that, or we have a mask. Some people don't like to get under that. They're a little claustrophobic. And they lay there for 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, I can tell them how many calories it takes to run their body. Exactly. I can tell them where those calories are coming from, fats or sugars. And I can tell them if they're coming from sugars, they're not doing themselves anything at rest, no help. Okay? They're trying to control their metabolism with food. So they just quit eating. Well, when you quit eating, your body learns to live on less food. That doesn't work either. Okay? People, when they go on a diet, what do? Quit eating. Cut their food way down. Don't do that. You have to eat to lose weight. That's how important eating is to you. You've got to eat the right amount. So I'm working on a methodology right now where in a field test I can help figure out from your BMI, your body mass index, what your calorie load is at rest. So we're looking at the data, trying to figure that out. We haven't quite got that. There is, Lana and I tried looking it up this afternoon, called calculator.net. There's supposed to be one on there for BMR. Try to search it out, how to find BMR. That's your basal level, and then all you have to do is add 200 calories to it, would be your load, because that's would be your resting. It's about 10% more what we call resting metabolic rate. This is resting metabolic rate. This is not your basal metabolic rate, which is done all night long. Can you hear me on that one? Can you hear me on that one? Is it working on that one? Okay, good. Okay. So then we stick them in a chamber. This is called a bod pod. And the bod pod can measure them to tell us what percentage of their body is fat and which is muscle. This is how we measure their success. We don't want them to lose muscle, we want them to lose fat. I just got through doing a gym program called M68. The gym was M68. And I go, what's that? So I went to my wife. Why would they call a gym M68? She goes, Micah 6'8". I go, that's right. What does the Lord require of us? That's the name of their gym. So it was very interesting because Micah 6'8", they're really into weightlifting. Okay? They wanted me to come over and help them with a weight loss challenge. They wanted to lose weight. Some of them knew they were, even though they were big, a lot of it was fat. So we tested them all in here. We got them all lined up, so the metabolism, showed them what they should do. And the one who won the challenge in how long was the challenge? I think the challenge was 10 weeks. I think it was. But this guy lost 22 pounds in 10 weeks. So he did pretty good. He was the highest. And wasn't just the one that needed to lose the most weight. You know what he did? He listened to me and he said, every day I'm going to take a walk at noon for his lunch period. And he took a walk at his work and he lost the most weight. The others tried, restricting their calories too much, and they tried doing all kinds of things. But guess what? All it takes is a little walk at that sweet spot, and you won't lose muscle mass, you'll lose fat mass. That's pretty important. Okay, and then we put him on a treadmill. This is a Dr. Hudapia from Japan, and he's an exercise physiologist teaching in one of our schools over there in Japan. I think, and his daughter was in nursing at Southern. So when he'd come to visit, he would always come down to the lab, and we'd always have lots of fun. And so he wanted to be tested. So we found out that where his sweet spot was, and it's where his body fuel is using 66% fat and 33% carbohydrates. And so that's where we really saw. And that's hard to see, showing you where the sweet spots are. I put those up there and I said, well, they won't know what that is. But this one shows you that 0.8 is the sweet spot where you're using 66%, 67% fat and 33% carbs. And so to finish this, what I have to say to you, and then we'll look at how you go and test yourself and find out where that sweet spot is. Okay? So, be the best you can be. That's what the balance is. That's what God requires of us. Be the best we can be. We are His workmanship. We are His children. We are in His image. Wow. We got some real accountability, don't we? To be the best we can be. And then alive. You want to be alive. We don't want to be dead bones walking like Ezekiel's bones. We want to be alive. So that's an important part. And then the L is lifestyle, living a lifestyle that actually, in fact, measures up to the best health principles we know. And they've been teaching you some of those health principles in this church, haven't you? Taught the New Start Have you taught the New Start program yet? Have they taught that in this church? Okay, in the fall they'll get to do that. So Lana's going to really spearhead that, probably get you going on the lifestyle. And here's an interesting thing. Any word, think of a word that has the A-N-C-E on it. Any word you can come up with. Besides balance, what other words could you come up with? Performance would be one. Any other word? There's lots of words out there that end in A-N-C-E. Competence, yes. Distance, very good. So the A-N-C, the suffix on the end, is the action of the word, to do the word. That's pretty cool. When I looked that up in the dictionary and found out, wow, that's the action of it. That's what we need. A, allow God to be part, follow the natural physical laws. Those are the New Start acronym that our health message is. Those are the physical laws of health. And then the caring laws of health, the social laws of health. I was getting ready to go to dentistry and I was getting an interview at San Francisco. My dad went to San Francisco because they didn't have Loma Linda at that time. And so a lot of Adventists went to San Francisco. So I thought, well, man, that's where he went. I probably could get in there. So I went there and I'm telling the lady how good a dentist I would make and, on and that kind of thing. She stopped me in the middle and said, you know what? I think you need to go be a missionary. And I said, excuse me? What are we talking about here? We're talking about dentistry, right? She goes, no, you need to go give of yourself and don't expect anything in return. Wow. She nailed me to the wall through God's Spirit, telling her to tell me that. I went to Africa for a year and learned more than I ever learned anywhere in school. I gave my shoes to a guy who never had a pair of shoes, my tennis shoes. I had a new pair of tennis shoes every month for a year because they would come apart and they'd give you a new pair when they'd come apart. I had 12 new pairs of tennis shoes in 1 year. He had one pair in his whole life. Wow, taught me a lot how much we really have and how important it is to give of ourselves and care about others. Wow, and the health message is the best way to care for others. Boy, teach them how important it is to care. And then engage in mental health mental side of health. Keep learning. Never quit learning. We learn all our lives. Man, here I am at the point of what I've learned in my life, and I retire. Well, I didn't retire from teaching. This is what I'm going to do, is travel around, teach people about the importance of learning. I'll be still going. So there you have the spiritual, the physical, the social, and the mental. That's the whole person that we have to do. Okay, I want to take a break. I could show you a little bit more, but that's enough for tonight to teach you. But I want to teach you how to do this. So let's hand out these forms. Lana's got them there. And these are what I call the Progressive 5-5-5 Fit Plan. Okay? And this Fit Plan is really a simple way to think of your exercise. The acronym FIT stands for frequency, intensity, and time. Okay, and I was going to tell you a story here at the end. Saving Ryan. I want to see if you know how I can save Ryan. Ryan really has trouble. Ryan came to me at the school, and he wants to be in a special ops team in the Marines. And he's got all these tests he's got to go through. So he's been training 4 hours a day. Training. He's been eating 5,000 calories a day to try to keep up with all that. You know, he's eating his way to I don't know where. And he's burning out all his glycogen. He feels awful all the time. How could we save Ryan? I've been trying to tell him what's really important is exercise at the sweet spot. Generate more mitochondria. When you have more mitochondria, you'll be able to do all these endurance things that they want you to do. That's one thing that he should listen to. He's gained 9% more weight in fat because we had him in the chamber. Why? He's eating 5,000 calories a day. He doesn't need all those calories, but he does need all those calories because he's burning himself out all the time. So when you're out of juice, you really go for the food. I learned that lesson, important lesson. When I was at Paradise, I would run to work in the morning, 5 miles, and then I'd run home 5 miles, and then I would eat my first meal. All day long, no food, work on nervous energy, run home, and I ate the refrigerator out. I was so hungry. I really ate. And I ate so much at one time, it overloaded my pancreas so much all the time, the pancreas went AWOL. Went crazy. Started putting out amylase, which is the digestive juices you need for your food, because I had so much load of food, and it singed all the lining of my abdominal cavity. And I about died with pancreatitis. And they couldn't figure out why I got it. Well, I know why I got it. I know exactly what habit I was doing wrong. They sent me to Loma Linda to be studied. Because they figure out why this healthy guy running 10 miles a day get pancreatitis. Eating is really important, your habit. Okay, so we're going to figure out how to save Ryman here. We're going to send him out. We're going to have him do a 1-mile walk test. It's not a run. It's not a race. Just walk at a steady pace so you can figure out what your pace to your time is. Okay? Once you figure that out, I would go to a track, like at a high school or somewhere where they have a level spot to do it. Because if it's not level, it's not going to be quite as accurate. So this is a pretty accurate test. It's a good field test. So find a level spot, walk 4 laps, that's what most tracks are, and that'll be a mile. If you can't walk a mile, walk a half a mile. And then extrapolate how long it would have taken you to walk a mile if you'd have walked twice the distance. So walk 2 laps. So the point is, you need to walk at least probably 10 minutes to get a good steady pace on the heart. The heart can get steady in about 3 minutes. So that would be enough, but we like to give a little extra time on that as your heart warms up and everything. So try to walk a mile. Check your pulse at the end. Now, how do you check an exercise pulse when you stop? Anybody know? Yeah, could do it by your pulse. How long do you count for? Too long. 10 seconds. count it for 10 seconds. The first beat you count is a reference beat, 0 beat. So you go 0, 1, 2, 3. Because in 10 seconds, it's times 6 the air. So if you counted one extra beat, it would be times 6. And if you missed a beat, it would be times 12. Or I mean, it would be 12 beats off. Okay? So make sure you count it here or here. Use these 2 fingers. They're the most sensitive. Don't use your thumb. And there's a notch right there, and there's a groove right in there. You can feel it beating. Okay? So you need to know what that pulse is at the end. And you catch it before it recovers. That's why you only count 10 seconds. You want to represent what it was while you were walking. Now you could use a heart rate monitor too if you had a heart rate monitor. Once you find that, you see that little formula right there? Now before I tell you this big long formula of addition and multiplication and subtraction and that sort of thing, which people are afraid of, you can look it up on your smartphone, the Rockport 1 mile walk test. And it'll give you a calculator, how to put in the values, and it'll tell you exactly what your VO2 is. Now, all VO2 stands for is ventilatory oxygen uptake. When you exercise, your body uses oxygen. So it wants to give you a measure of how much your body's capable of using at peak. So it's predicting your peak oxygen. So you find your scale there on that little performance VO2 norm once you've looked that up and multiplied that out. Then, once you've found that, let's say you're between the 60 and 69, and let's say you're a male, and let's say you got 28. What would that be? What level of condition? That'd be 3. Go by the number, 3. You look down here, level 3 would be you would use the intensity between 55 and 65% when you set it up. Now, that number right there, that multiplier goes over, turn your page over. You see where it says the second item down there on calculating training heart rate says 220 minus your age equals your heart rate max. Subtract your rest heart rate. Now you do have to know your rest heart rate. You can take that in the morning before you get up without waking up with an alarm. Find out what your resting heart rate is in the morning, early morning. Since you're not taking an exercise recovery pulse, you can take that for a minute or take it for half a minute and double it, or it's more accurate. You can do whatever you want there, but get that resting rate. Then you'll get what we call the heart rate reserve. If I looked at this page right here, the top would be my maximum, the bottom would be my rest. The beats in between those are the heart rate reserve. That's how many heartbeats you have in reserve. So all those beats, if you used them all, would be working at 100%. Well, you're not going to work at that. Remember, go back to our example, said he's going to work at level 3, so he's working at 60%. So you go back over here and it says right there, percent of intensity times 0.6 is what you take times the heart rate reserve. So you're going to use 60% of those beats. Then you're going to add back the resting heart rate, will tell you the target heart rate. That's all there is. That will tell you the heart rate you should be working at. For performance, now let's find the sweet spot. Go down one more. It says, to change me to the sweet spot, corrected training heart rate, you take the target heart rate and stick it right there times 0.24 and add 88 beats. Will tell you the most metabolically efficient heart rate, the sweet spot that you should exercise at. That's all there is to it. You got it. It's done. It's not that hard. You can do it. So now you have the tool that you can go do that. Now the rest of these calculations here, like how to calculate effort, let's say you go out and I could walk up to anyone in the gym and tell them if they're at the right level just by looking at them, because I've seen a lot of people exercise. But I could say, how hard on a scale 1 to 10 are you working? They'd say a 5. I'd say, okay, what's your age? Calculate out. They were working at 50% of their capacity. People can tell you from what we call rated perceived exertion, RPE, that they could tell you how hard they're actually working just from their rating their exertion. So I would say that you could figure it out for anybody else by just going and asking them some of those questions. Or you can actually calculate. Now, when I say this little tool here, I would do it once in a month, the first 3 months. And I would watch myself improve. But How many times do you have to exercise? This is what you need to remember. Frequency, 5 times a week. Most people will tell you they need to exercise 3 times a week. That's a maintenance program. They're not going to go anywhere. In fact, the first thing I say to them is, how many times a week do you eat? Then they don't do it anymore, okay? You need to exercise daily and set your metabolism daily. You can't store fitness. You have to daily go back and do it. You have to change the metabolism daily. Otherwise, it'll get to bad metabolism if you're not exercising to keep it up where it should be. So 5 times a week, you don't need to go, we say 3 times a week you maintain fitness, 4 times a week you build fitness, 5 times a week we enjoy fitness, 6 times a week we employ fitness, starts to become a job, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. 7 days a week we destroy fitness. Don't try to do it 7 days a week. Now, here's the good news. If you're exercising in that sweet spot, you can walk every day. You probably could walk even on Sabbath. And I don't see anything wrong with exercising on Sabbath, but I change my attitude at what I'm doing on Sabbath. I go out in nature and I spend time with nature. I'm not trying to keep track of all these things and heart rates. And I just enjoy God's nature and learn more about God. And it's really a fun nature, but God has a wonderful nature. But my little dog, Charlie, she's a rat terrier Maltese mix. They call her Ratisse. She's about this big. And she runs with me every day. I ride the bike, an e-bike with a motor on it that assists me if I need to go up a hill. I don't have to work that hard. I stay in my sweet spot. And she stays right with me. Runs every day with me. She's so in love with me because she loves to do that. She stands at my feet whenever I'm there and just looks at me. My wife says, oh, brother, that dog, and I got this dog for my wife for her birthday. She said, that dog idolizes you, doesn't care about me. But that dog loves you when they take him out because it's so good for them to exercise every day. So fit, frequency, 5 times a week. Intensity, how much intensity?
5.
Intensity. How hard should your heart go? In that sweet spot. Find that sweet spot and know where that is. Okay? That's the intensity. Time, how much time? 45 minutes daily. Doesn't all have to be at one time. It's cumulative. You can do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night, and you've got your sessions in. You can build up to that. You don't have to start out at that. You start with 20 minutes and add 5 minutes each week. Add by 5s. That's what the 5-5-5 is. Intensity, if you start at a low intensity, don't add more than 5% heart rate. And what I found with this exercise, you don't need to increase the intensity. It automatically trains you because you'll automatically go faster and work harder, but you'll be at the same level, that sweet spot. So that's the beauty that God built into the system. Okay, questions? Then I'll let you go and become fit.
Heart rate at rest and the heart rate at reserve, what is the difference?
Okay, so your resting heart rate is what your pulse is. It's never at 0. It's up at a certain rate. Your heart rate reserve is the maximum minus the rest, which is how many beats you have available. But that's not your exercise heart rate. That's just how many beats you have available. So you have to find out how many you're going to use of that maximum. Let's say you're going to use 50% of them. So then you add your resting to that 50% of those beats, and that becomes the target heart rate then. That comes the actual heart rate that you check. But it's not the heart rate, it's how many beats you have available to your heart. Everybody, you lose a beat every year as you get older. I'm 70, so 220 minus your age, you don't go as high. People can't, that's what's funny about students. You'll ride with them and they'll say, my heart rate's 160, and I'll say, yeah, mine's 120. And they'll go, how are you doing this same pace with only 120 heart rate? Well, remember, 150 is my max. Because 220 minus my age, see? So they don't realize that your heart changes, and so you're working within a different range, but you're still working just as hard. I'm working it as hard as they are at their higher heart rates. They just got more to work with. That makes sense? Any other questions? That's a good question, Lana. Now you're all going to go do it, right? You're going to become fit, and you're going to take care of your body that God designed you to take care of, and you're going to be shocked at what's going to happen to you. Now, don't think that you're going to go exercise and just eat the same and it's going to take care of it. Remember, exercise doesn't lose weight, so you have to make sure your energy balance is only 200 calories under your balance. And remember, I told you to look up how to do a BMR calculator. BMR is basal metabolic rate calculator, and then add 200 calories to that. So remember to do that. Then you know how many calories. Now, how do you keep track? Well, I use myfitnesspal.com, or I just use my little notebook. And I write right in there, okay, I had a slice of bread, that was 100 calories, and I just track them. Pretty soon you know what the calories you're supposed to be eating. You don't have to keep track of it anymore. You know exactly the foods you eat and how much you have to eat of it. It'll also tell you, if you put them in those calculators like myfitnesspal.com, it will tell you how much you're eating from carbs, how much you're eating from fats, how much you're eating from protein. And if you need to adjust it to get it to, what did we say? 60, 20, 20. So all you have to do is stop eating some of the maybe too much carbs and eating more protein, or, you know. And your best food to give you staying power, and this is what I'll leave you with, beans for breakfast. You won't have to eat all day. You know how many kind of beans there are? 1,500 different kinds of beans. So I don't care which kind you like. I like the red beans, the kidney red beans. And lentils, my wife loves lentils, so we eat lots of lentils. Doesn't matter. If you eat beans for breakfast, it gives you protein, it gives you staying power. It's the lowest glycemic food we have. So what happens is when you eat it, your blood sugar doesn't go up like this. It goes like this. Keeps your blood sugar nice and stable. So whatever you do eat a bowl of beans with it, half a cup of beans, and you'll be surprised at how well that makes you feel. I can tell when I've had a bowl of beans, I'm on target for the day, my metabolism. Any other questions?
The 60% is
Carbs. And the 20% is fats, 20% is proteins. Yeah. Yeah. You can do it that way too. Right. Would be protein, 20% fat. You could do that too. And what you really want to do is eat color, lots of different colors, fruits and vegetables, grains, cereals, nuts, variety. And you have a program where you're going to teach them about the diet, right? Yeah. I would follow that up with that because they want to know about the eating. A lot of times we get too complex with the eating. It's not as bad as you think. It's just the amount you got to be careful of. And I'm working on a system where it's fuel me. How much fuel do you need? And how do you determine that fuel? I'm working on a book. It'll be out probably within a year. And now that I'm not teaching, I'll have a little time to do that. Work on it a little more. You've been a great group. You all listened intently for an hour, practically. So you guys really listened. I have to be careful. My wife would have been here. She'd have been going like this all the time.
Is this your own research, or is it a peer-reviewed paper?
We're getting ready to publish that paper. And I have a researcher that actually helped with the Adventist Health Study that lives in Chattanooga. And he taught at Chat State, or not Chat State, the other one, Tennessee, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, whatever that is, and the system of Tennessee. And he also worked for the CDC for a while. He's helped with all these COVID things and everything. He's very, very wise, widely published. So he'll help me get this published. We're pretty close. It's been through a couple of peer reviews. Now it's ready to to get into the whichever journal we're looking for to get it into. But really, my research is about exercise for the general public. It's not just for the athlete. We've been teaching people how to exercise for like athletes, and they're getting discouraged, and it's not helping them. And we want to teach them how to live healthfully, and then the exercise is part of that combination to make that happen. So.
Loma Linda's a blue zone.
Yeah, Chattanooga is too.
You're trying to get.
Yeah, in fact, the Blue Zone came to Chattanooga, the Blue Zone people. I forget what his name is, the main researcher that did that. And they came, his son came, and they talked to him, and they're actually going to, I sat on the committee that is helping to make Chattanooga into a Blue Zone, because we're pretty close to that. So they got to get all the departments and everybody on the same page, and it's a big deal to get everybody into that, to get them on to living a lifestyle of the Blue Zone lifestyle. So I think they can do it.
A college place is not a blue zone.
Well, it could be. I don't know if anyone's done any studies to find out if it is, but they're talking about the whole Chattanooga area, yeah, which includes the college deal. So Chattanooga, this is the city of Chattanooga wants to do that. They're the ones that hired them. They hired those guys to come, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Huh? Yeah.
Aretha Frank, we've eaten at that restaurant.
Yeah.
It's probably not healthy food.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody complains about that. One thing, I gave a lecture at Little Debbie's one time, and I made the mistake of making one little comment like that. And they said, hey. Because they really have supported Southern. They put a lot of money into Southern. So we try to, and they have tried to do healthy things with some of their things. They had the Blue Bonnet part of their department. Was it Blue Bonnet? Blue something, I think. Blue Earth or Blue something. And they made nut bars and things that were a lot healthier. It's the sugar and that kind of thing. And they've gotten all the, what's the substance we're not supposed to have in our food now that it's really caustic to our arterial walls? And they're trying to get it out of everything. Trans fats. Yeah. I at the Lifestyle Center, let's see, is his name? I want to say Ellis or Ellsworth. Ellsworth, the father, and his wife came to, Little Debbie's parents, came to the Lifestyle Center. And so I was exercising, I was always talking to him about, what he was doing in the factory and what their plans were and what they're doing. Very interesting guy. And they're very true blue about wanting people to be healthy. They don't want you to eat only Little Debbie's, That's a dessert, right? Well, it's been fun. Thank you for being such an attentive audience to this idea that it's not harder, it's smarter.
Amen.
Man, that's good news. Yeah.
See if you can get Kellogg's to work beans into their morning breakfast cereal.
There you go. It's a good idea. That'd be good.